ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितमेन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पुष्टदेशतारिणे वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि ओ गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय श्री कृष्ण चंद्र भगवान की जय। Krishna is the most mysterious personality. He has the power to deal with everybody. Those who have Shraddha, those who have faith, he gives rise to prema in them. Everything what he has done, his philosophy, his life, everything becomes meaningful and sweet. But those who have questions, for them, he gives rise to jigyasa. Jigyasa, as he explains in the Bhagavad Gita. And those who have doubt, for them there is logic, there is nyaya. And those who are nishkriya, those who have given up desire to function, act, become movable, nishkriyata, for them he has his yoga. And therefore, when we study Krishna, Krishna is synonymous to, right, there is a Vishwarupa form of the Lord. Sri Krishna is synonymous to the function of the creation in a very systematic way. They are not different from each other. He basically exhibits those qualities because no quality binds Krishna. Every quality is a tool rather than bound by the quality itself. Like we used to see this Raymond's ad, complete man. Generally what happens, people are bound by a particular quality. And that is how they are defined. They are defined based upon some isolated qualities. Be it compassion, truthfulness, magnanimity, masculine manliness, forgiveness, right? These are glorified qualities, but if you study carefully, these very qualities bind people rather than liberating them and their followers. People are bound by this quality. Krishna is not bound by any of this quality. Whether it is the deep saintly people practicing sadhana or the most ordinary people, one thing they explain about Krishna, his relevance, his pragmatic approach, his freshness in regards to how to see life, right? And therefore, when we study Krishna in the Chandogya Upanishad, it is explained that under the guidance of Ghora Angirasa, Sri Krishna performed Purusha Yajna. The Chandogya Upanishad, you can read. Krishnaya Devaki Putrayo. What did he do? He practiced these three things. Akshitam Asi, that I never decay. Achyutam asi, you never change. And then I'm the essence of life. Pranasmashitam. So by practicing Purusha Meda Yajna, he was freed from all limitations. In fact, every limitation became an opportunity. When we study Sri Krishna in the Mahabharata, I'll try to connect to three things. One is Nyaya, one is Prema, and one is Yoga. Prema we all know. Those who are Shraddhalu, those who believe in Krishna, those who have faith in Krishna, those who have devotion to Krishna. As I said, everything what he does is fascinating. It brings joy. It brings tears of gratitude. Right? Then whatever he does, for an outsider it may sound very meaningless or controversy, but for a devotee, bhakta, everything what Krishna does is meaningful and also sweet. But Krishna doesn't stop there. He knows creation as it is. One of the great quality of Krishna is to accept the creation as it is. He doesn't tamper into the creation. He doesn't create imagination to the creation. He doesn't try to fix creation, rather he gives perspective to the creation. सृष्टि को फिक्स करने के बदले में उसको एक दृष्टिकोण देता है. Right? He only fixes those things which are supposed to be fixed according to the functioning of the creation. Therefore, let us keep aside those people who love Krishna. Today they are not subject matter of ours. Our subject matter is those people who have questions about Krishna, who have doubt about Krishna, and who have become nishkriya because they are living a life of complete doubt. And therefore, first is Nyaya. Now, what is Nyaya? Nyaya is judiciousness, logic. So, when we see Nyaya, those who are doubting Krishna, I remember telling a lot of children, the modern kids, they are honest in regards to certainly being blunt, sometime being shameless also, but that shamelessness has one advantage. I'm not saying it advantages. That shamelessness has one advantage, the advantage of being bluntly truthful. Right? When it comes to the concept of dharma, religion, spirituality, they just spell out bluntly about what they believe, what they don't believe. And such people are very interesting to Krishna. They're very interesting to Krishna's philosophy. If somebody says, I don't believe in Krishna, that doesn't bother the psychology of Krishna, that doesn't bother Krishna himself. When somebody says, I don't believe in Krishna, I don't believe that he existed, I don't believe that ever this kind of stories happened, doesn't matter to him. Right? But he is willing to offer them the logic of life. When we study Krishna's psychology, right, it doesn't bother Krishna when you deny his existence, deny his contribution, deny his authenticity. वो डिस्टर्ब नहीं होता है. Imagine Shishupal was promised by Krishna that I will not touch, promised to his mother, I will not touch your son till he complete 100 offenses, blunderous offenses. And every time Shishupal would come, kind of offend Krishna, Krishna let him live. He was beyond logic. He was beyond nyaya. He was beyond jigyasa. Then only Sri Krishna used his Sudarshan Chakra in such a way that Shishupal fell down, he was killed, right? Not because he offended Krishna, but because he was causing disturbance to the Rajasuya sacrifice. He deserved to die. It was not personal. Apparently, it looks like that. You study in the Mahabharata, you study, Jarasan, so many demonic people, they would offend Krishna. When Krishna came to the battlefield to face Poundrak Vasudev, right? Poundraka became so arrogant, so nasty, that he wanted to prove that he is not different from Vasudev. He burnt his chest wanting to show that this is the Srivatsas Chinna. He placed extra 2 hands, calling a best of the carpenter. And he challenged Krishna. When Krishna came to the battlefield, Krishna was not threatened by Vasudeva. Krishna smiled, Krishna laughed. He had a loud laughter, right, before eliminating Poundraka Vasudeva, the false Vasudeva. So therefore, when someone comes to Krishna, studying the Prakriti, in the Prakriti, when people study, question why bad things happen to good people. If God is great, why this is happening? If God is great, why there is disparity? If God is great, why my family, one of my family member got killed accidentally? Why they have to die untimely death? Sometimes such anger also captures the mind of practicing spiritualist also. Right? Their attachment to their family is genuine, authentic. But if that attachment destroys the good sense, right, it is not the loss of Krishna, it is the loss of the perspective to understand Krishna's creation by the people. And therefore, what does Krishna do with logic? He gives perspectives. वो दृष्टिकोण देते हैं. One of the great dristikon Krishna gives, right? Whether you study Bhagavad Gita, whether you study Mahabharata, whether you study Bhagavatam, one of the greatest perspective is this world is a land of duality. Nobody can question duality. It is not his statement. It is basically telling us this is the reality. Imagine when a mother is giving birth or a young woman giving birth to a baby. The act of giving birth is considered, especially for a woman, labor pain, is excruciatingly painful. Those who are doctors, those who are mothers, those who are family members must have seen the pain what the lady goes through. The child is coming out from the womb of the mother, painful, but that pain gives rise to greatest of the joy that she is becoming a mother. The child makes the lady into a mother. Kya dvandva hai? What a great duality. The greatest of the pain, but the greatest of the joy are placed together, wherein a woman will say, I will never give birth again in my life. What does she do? Because she enjoys the pleasure of being a mother, which is born out during the same time as she experienced great suffering. She chooses to become mother again. Right? A child, in one sense, experiences the pain of coming out, and the child also experiences the pleasure of being with that same person whom he or she experienced in the womb. Right? Within no time, I have seen a calf which is born to the mother cow. Within no time, she is sucking the udder of the mother cow, drinking the milk, being nourished. Right? Similarly, a small baby, imagine, born from that place, painful for the mother, painful for the child, but sucks the milk of the mother and feel nourished. If you can understand this concept of Dvandva and Krishna, whether you believe it or not, whether you believe him in or not, whether you believe Krishna's history or not, whether you believe Krishna as a person or not, it does not matter in regards to truth of life. It is universal, right? You are a scientist, you are a logician, you are a stand-up comedian, you are a politician, you are a mother, you are a spiritualist, a devotee. It does not matter, because 2.14 or so many more verses in the Mahabharata, in the Bhagavad, in the Ramayana, what does it say? It's a beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. Matra sparshastu kauntaye shitoshna sukhadakada. Right? What is it? Happiness and distress are like summer and winter season. They arise from the sense perception, and therefore, my dear Arjun, one should learn to tolerate by being sober. Imagine if this verse goes deeper into our system, you will never raise the question, because these questions are redundant. Blaming God. Oh, why there is suffering? That is part of the creation. It is not the creation itself. It is part of the creation. It is not simply miserable. It is not simply blissful. It is combination, just like a baby comes out of the mother's womb, screaming and shouting and joy also. Dono ek hi saath mein. This is one of the core philosophy, logic. Therefore, Krishna would prefer more presenting the logic of his system, keeping himself out of the entire, in the proximity, focusing on the philosophy. Just like when he came to Duryodhan and when he spoke to Arjuna, there is a distinction between two presentation. Even though the principle, the foundational idea applied to both of them, with Duryodhan, Krishna gave a facility, bargained with Duryodhan, gave an opportunity to Duryodhan. Right? Duryodhan was threatened by competition. Duryodhan was continuously threatened by the Pandavas, but Pandavas said, no, you don't have to be threatened by us. There are facility everywhere for everyone to be engaged. Right? So what did Krishna do to Duryodhan? He offered him such a profound opportunity. He said, hey Duryodhan, you join with the Pandavas. If you join with the Pandavas, just like there is a forest. Krishna gives this example in the Mahabharata. He said, Paraspara Purak, interdependence concept. So brilliantly Krishna explains. If you go to any forest, dense forest, you will find the dense forest is dense because there are wild animals. And the wild animals are in abundance because it is a dense forest. ये भगवान का उदाहरण है. Now, does it matter whether you say that, oh, I believe only Krishna said this, or you say, I don't believe Krishna said this? Does it matter in regards to the truth of Krishna's system, right? Or the Prakriti? If Duryodhana would have joined with the Pandavas, the synergy between Pandavas and the Kurus would be so powerful. Krishna said, hey Duryodhana, even the Devatas will not look into the direction of the Kurus, will become so powerful. Because Paraspara Puraka, just like the creeper and the tree. The tree gives shelter to the creeper, and creeper makes the tree very beautiful to look at. You don't find Krishna teaching Sharanagati to Duryodhana. You don't find Krishna teaching devotion to Duryodhana. You don't find Krishna telling the secrets, the most secrets of inner reality, because for Duryodhana, The reality was external. His reference point was simply the palace and the position. Krishna gave that opportunity to Duryodhana, right? Without threatening, there he did not threaten Duryodhana. He just gave that option to Duryodhana. When Duryodhana was not willing to change, when the Shastra did not work, when the Shastra did not work, then he talked about Shist, discipline. He said, my dear Dhritarashtra, bound is four people. If you bind his four people, Duryodhana, Dushasan, Shakuni and Karna, he said, rest of your people will survive. The entire war which is coming at our doorstep can be avoided. Please do something about it. Dhritarashtra was not willing. What is it? That is a part of the system. In this world, certainly war is a last option. War is a last resort, but war is always inevitable. While war is always inevitable, because that is how the world functions. There is a constant struggle for existence, for proving, for expanding and controlling more and more. We see that in the human existence, we see in the animal species, we also see amongst the planetary positions also. Right? When you study the planet, there are planets who can't stand each other. Shani and Surya. Even though Shani comes from Surya, what is it? Shani and Surya have a great conflict with each other. एक प्लैनेट में दोष है, एक प्लैनेट में शत्रुत्व है. Right? So therefore, finding that limitations, hostile situation is part of the creation. Not everybody is hostile. Right? And not everybody loves you. And not everybody loves you or hate you, but some people are very neutral. This is Krishna's system. Again, through logic, when we study logic, I generally tell children, okay, forget about this, forget about everything, focus on Nyaya and find out whatever Krishna is speaking, does it make sense or not? If it is making sense, that means, and it has to make sense because it is sensible. You cannot disprove, you can be stubborn saying that I don't want to believe. And then you are proving yourself to be an agent of Shishupal, a follower of Shishupal, where you are not willing to accept the logical reality. For such people, what does Prakriti do? She sucks in. She destroys them. Not because she wants to punish them. The time factor, when it approaches them closely, then they fear their own death. Forget about fearing death, they fear getting retired. They fear being irrelevant. They fear that somebody will take away their position. They fear about, their very family member. They fear their own daughter-in-law. They fear their own mother-in-law. They fear their own brother. They fear their own sister. They are continuously living a life of fear. Certainly they will fear death. Right? But with Sri Krishna, when he teaches Bhagavad Gita, what does he do? He makes one fearless. How does he make them fearless? He makes them fearless by being sportive in life. By teaching move on, because if you move on, the whole verse, the what is that? Karma, karmani vadikarasti ma phalechu kadachan. What is that verse? That is verse is not a philosophy, it's a sport. It is an amazing sportive nature, right? The very reason people is to play is to experience fierce competition, a sportive competition, right? People are sweating, they are basically trying to win over And once the win is over, both the team has the courteous nature to greet each other. Arey wow, what a game it was. Fantastic, we enjoyed. Right? So what does Krishna do? Krishna basically teaches us how to be sportive, which Duryodhan did not had the quality of sportiveness. Duryodhan did not had the quality of magnanimity in regards to different opinion. Duryodhan did not had the quality of जाने दो ना क्या फर्क पड़ता है. That quality was not there. And what happened? Because he did not had that quality, he was fearful in every aspect of his life, and therefore his death was also inglorious, right? Painful, because he had no perspective. In therefore in the Bhagavad Gita we see one of the fear exhibited by Duryodhan, where he knows that Dronacharya, Kripacharya, Bhishmadev, Karna will not be able to kill the Pandavas, because they've taken a vow that we will kill the army of the Pandavas, but we will not kill the Pandavas. So what is the point of having so powerful warriors who are supposed to perform the act of killing the Pandavas, but they've taken vow they will not do? Imagine how much fear, how much pain, how much anxiety Duryodhan has. So in the beginning he was in anxiety, beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. In the middle he was anxiety, and in his death also he was in great anxiety. Right, but the Pandavas, they went through the anxiety, but they fixed it. Right, Krishna helped Pandavas to fix. So therefore, rather than going into great details about logic, please find those things in this creation which are driven by Nyaya. They are truth which is existing since time and immemorial, unchangeable reality. Agni, the fire will burn. Can anybody change that? No. Water will quench our thirst. If you don't know how to swim, if you jump into the water, you will drown. That is the law of nature. Right? Yukta hara, yukta vihara, yukta chestu sukarmasu. If you do not follow this disciplined activities, that is not good for you. Most of the time, people suffer not because God punishes them. People suffer because they are not having a right and a very deep perspective about life itself. Very visible, very logical. Right? That is one thing. Logic. In hundreds of the example. Again, in the Bhagavad Gita, if you don't believe in Krishna, if you don't want to worship Krishna, as I said, it doesn't matter to Krishna. He is not going to throw someone because they don't worship Krishna into great disturbance. He is not small-minded God. He is not jealous. He is not causing harm to your relationship. Right? It doesn't matter to him if you are doing your duties properly in regards to earning your resources. It doesn't matter whether you believe in him or not. As long as you are disciplined in that, you will win. And therefore, it does not take one of the greatest concept Bhagavad Gita gives, which we underplay it. What is that? He says that I do not take responsibility. Nadatte kassachit papam, nadatte sukritim vibhu. Kyanen avritam ajnanam tena muyante jintava. Hey Arjuna, the suffering is caused. Why? Because living entity has covered his or her knowledge through ajnan. I do not actively take part in people's happiness and distress. Now, this verse is so profound. It is so powerful. Why it is profound and powerful? Because it destroys the logic of people that God has to come to me every now and then and solve my immediate problem because I believe in Him. Krishna will ask this question, when will you believe in your own self? Therefore, Bhagavad Gita It's the combination of human confidence and human taking complete shelter in him. You can't find any other book like that. Right? When you study the modern psychology, when you study the modern people who believe in work is worship, right? They are in one extreme of the spectrum. There is no God, we don't need God, it is none of his business. We have to manage on our own self. We have to prove our credibility. Karo, try doing it. Right? And there are others who are other extreme. Sarva dharman parityaja, you don't need to do anything, just surrender to Krishna. Their dependence on Krishna, they don't realize is becoming burden to their own self. Right? Because Krishna doesn't take anybody's burden. He doesn't allow you to become redundant. He does not allow you to become incapacitated. He doesn't allow you to become inactive. निष्क्रिय बनने ही नहीं देंगे कभी. He will push. And how does he push? Again in the Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna say? So profound, I am the strength of the strong. When you see the strength of a person, it is not wrong. That is Krishna. That is what Krishna is saying. I am the strength of the strong. I am the intelligence of the intelligent. And I am the ability in man. And I am the digestive power. जिसके अंदर digestion करने की क्षमता है. The power of digestion is also Krishna. An aspect of Krishna. A representation of Krishna. And therefore, that is also Krishna. So what does he do here? In the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna forces the living entity not by threatening, not by emotionally blackmailing, not because he's more powerful. He is forcing the living entity to be reflective, to use the logic, to explore, to make the jigyasa, and to tell, unless you take a stand, unless you function, right, other than few great devotees or Krishna's will, God directly does not interfere in people's life. If you stop expecting this from God, then you can experience God in your efforts. Right? So in the Western world, there was this concept of deism. They believe in God, but they don't believe in his direct interference. And that is what Gita is teaching about. Krishna did not raise even one arrow on behalf of Arjuna. Krishna did not raise one mace against the enemies of the Pandavas. In fact, he had declared, I will not raise weapons, Arjuna. You want my army, which is powerful, they will fight for you, or you want me, will not raise any weapons. What is that? If you cannot understand, this is the essence of one aspect of Bhagavad Gita, Purushartha. Stopping you from being Nishkriya, making you yogi. Because what is yoga? Yoga means Dharma plus Kriya is equal to Dharma. आपके जीवन का विकास करने की क्षमता. The ability for you to grow is in your hand more than 80%. Right? But that last part, right? The last part, just like the test match, right? India losing and India winning, that you cannot say this was the great play. Yes, they played, but that part where you miss, that is the power, something beyond human capacity. But that beyond capacity of human can only be experienced by those people who are exhausted, and they have to be exhausted by putting their efforts. Sharanagati kab aati hai? When do you experience complete shelter of Krishna? You experience complete shelter of Krishna when you are exhausted by your entire resources available to you. That has to be there. पुरुषार्थ यानी कि पूरा विश्वास मैं करूंगा, and at the same time पूरा विश्वास तुम करेगा. Where you will find such understanding? That is a system of Krishna. That is what we see in logic. That is what we see in Nyaya. Right? And the second factor, of course, prema. How do you love someone? The love of God does not come because you hear nice poetry. Love of God does not develop because somebody brainwashed you to love God. Doesn't work like that. The love of God only happens when you are self-sufficient and you have zero expectation from the other party. Rather, you are willing to do more. Gopis did not come to Krishna begging for something. The Brahmana Patnis did not come to Krishna asking for something from them. Arjuna did not come to Krishna asking, you help me to win the war. Yes, alliance is a political reality. But when Krishna told, what do you want? You want me or you want my army? What will you choose? Now Janmashtami is coming up. Right? Imagine for one of the president, Krishna appears and he says, I will come to your temple for 3 minutes. I'll give darshan. Do you want me to come? Or you want all the donation coming to your temple? What do you want? Or even otherwise, right? We will unfortunately look for the resources of what Krishna is giving rather than Krishna himself. Therefore, prema, to love God, you have to be valorous. साहसी बनना पड़ता है, adventurous बनना पड़ता है, resourceful रहना पड़ता है. You cannot love because love is not, somebody said, प्रेम जो है ना, ये बहुत रिच लोगों का काम है, भिखारी कहाँ प्रेम करेगा? Very profound statement. It's love is the privilege of the highly resourceful people, क्योंकि वो सामने वाले से कुछ नहीं चाहता other than affection. Imagine loving Krishna, Mother Yashoda or Devaki Mata knew bringing Krishna to this world means losing all my 7 children. Bringing Krishna to this world means I will be isolated from the mainstream society. Bringing Krishna to this world means shackled in Kamsa's prison, having no facilities whatsoever. किसके मन में, किसमें ऐसा जिगर है, right, to bring children and get lost, lose everything for that child so that Krishna can come? I'm not saying that is how Krishna organized. That is how the world, right? The world requires great adventurous mindset to gain something. अगर आपको राजा बनना है तो भिखारी बनने की क्षमता होनी चाहिए. If you want to play test cricket, you should be able to tolerate the pain of getting beaten, getting hit. If you want to be a boxing champion, you should be willing to lose your face. आप एक भी चीज दिखाओ इस प्रकृति में जहां जिसको बहुत, if they want something great, the sacrifice is almost losing everything. Right, I always tell the story of the great soldier of Shivaji Maharaj. Right, what was his story? What a love. This man was 70 plus, Baji Pasalkar. He comes to his king. And what does he say? Raja or Shivaba. Right, because he was an elderly. If you remember this point, bhakti और प्रेम के लिए ना हमारी औकात नहीं. It's easy to say because we don't have to do anything. Loving Krishna in this world, you don't do anything. You eat nice prasad. You chant in an AC room. राइट, व्हेन यू हैव अ ग्रेट कीर्तन, उसके बाद में फेस्टिवल भी होगा, फेस्ट भी होगा, वहां वीरता कम है। प्रेम के लिए वीरता की आवश्यकता लगती है, हीरोइज्म की आवश्यकता लगती है। एंड यू सी इन एवरी कैरेक्टर. सो दिस बाजी पासलकर टोल्ड शिवाजी, ही सेड, माय डियर किंग, आपण स्वतःला मोजायचं बंद केलंय. वी हैव स्टॉप्ड काउंटिंग आवर सेल्व्स. जब आप अपने आप को गिनना बंद करते हो ना, then the limitation is broken completely. Your non-existence breaks all the barriers, and you become so much available to the other party. Right, the gopis came to Krishna. What is that? They were willing to work for Krishna. निशुल्क दासिका. बोले कृष्ण हमको खरीदी कर लो, हमको कुछ भी मत दो, but keep us with you. You know what Lord Chaitanya said? Ashlishva padardam pinushtama. He said, you can neglect me. बोलते बहुत सुंदर श्लोक है, लेकिन करके दिखा नहीं सकते. If something is taken away from us, right? We are angry, upset, we are hurt. अगर हमें सरप्राइजिंगली सेवा दिया, कृष्ण की सेवा है, कितना डिस्टर्ब हो जाता है, या अपना सेवा ले लिया, उसे कितना डिस्टर्ब हो जाता है. इसलिए प्रेम born out of purushartha. इसलिए अर्जुन, good example is when Arjuna was fighting along with Krishna the Khandoprastha Rakshasas. That was the beginning of Arjuna's career. Right? They fought and they defeated Indra, they defeated the Khandoprastha Rakshasas, the Nagas. And eventually Indra was very pleased. And he asked Arjun, what do you want? And he asked Krishna, what do you want? Right. So then Arjuna told Krishna something different than what Krishna told to Arjun. Krishna told Indra, I want friendship, nothing from Arjun. And what did Arjuna tell Indra? He said, I want divine weapon. मुझे अस्त्रों की आवश्यकता है. Like Dhruva Maharaj also said, I want great resources much beyond my grandfather. कोई गलत नहीं उसमें. There is nothing wrong. These are two great devotees. Right? So when Krishna could have said, Arjuna, why are you asking like that? क्योंकि उस प्राप्त करने के लिए अर्जुन अपने आप को सक्षम बनाया. I am the ability in man. When you become saksham and self-sufficient, then you don't ask anything from anybody. No expectations. Right? The Indian pious family, we are religious, but we are not spiritual. Right? Very different. When a daughter-in-law comes to the home, mother-in-law का कितना सारा expectation होता है. One of the greatest fear of the mother-in-law, I am saying daughter-in-law also, one of the greatest fear of the mother-in-law, that this lady will take away my son from me. वही लेकर आती है ढूंढकर, वही आशीर्वाद देती है अपने बहू को, वही बोलते हैं अपने बेटे को जल्दी शादी कर ले, जल्दी शादी कर ले, जल्दी शादी कर. और जब ये शादी करके लेकर आता है बोलते हैं अरे अभी तो मुझे भूल गया. कितना एक्सपेक्टेशन. हीरोइक नहीं है, थ्रेटेंड है. अगर इसमें हीरोइक बन गए कि अरे मैंने मेरे पुत्र को आपको दे दिया, चल ले चल, इट्स योर टाइम. नहीं, योर टाइम नहीं, मैंने रोटी खिलाया, मैंने ये किया, लेकिन पूजा भी करेंगे, आरती भी करेंगे. दैट इज गुड. इट इज बेटर टू डू आरती and then not to do arti and complain. But if we can do arti of Krishna, and when we have the courage to say, I don't need anything other than, spirit of self-sufficiency. ये बहुत ही connected है. They're not different from each other. And therefore Arjuna, when he had all the resources, They were on the final stage of their battle. Krishna offered, what a temptation. तुम्हें मेरी सेना चाहिए गोपाल जो मेरे जैसे ही है. That every one of them is as good warrior as me. Do you want them or you want me? किसकी हिम्मत है? किसकी हिम्मत है बोलने के लिए मुझे केवल तू चाहिए, तेरी सेना नहीं चाहिए? That is prem. Prem is not poetry. Prem is not drama. Prem is not crying. Prem is not feeling nice. Prem is basically, having that great self-sufficiency, and I'm there for you. And therefore, in the Chandogya Upanishad, we were quoting that. In the Chandogya Upanishad, there is a definition, there is a description of Krishna in regards to what he learned from great Angirasa. He learned from great Angirasa overcoming all limitations and performing Purusha Meda Yagya. एक वैदिक इसमें मैंने पढ़ा था, I read somewhere that Ashwamedha Yagya, Gomedha Yagya and Purusha Meda Yagya, तीन प्रकार के यज्ञ का वर्णन आता है. And all the three are taken wrongly. People consider Purusha Meda Yagya means लोगों को बलि चढ़ाना, नर बलि. Right? You must have heard नर बलि की, cutting the head of a living human being. And Gomedha Yagya means basically cutting a cow, killing the cow. Or Ashwamedha Yagya means actually slaughtering the horse. Now they are very symbolic if you study the Vedas. So Ashwamedha Yagya represents the horsepower, which is the representation of a Kshatriya. Relentlessly on the battlefield, just like घोड़ा कभी बैठता नहीं है, जैसे ही बैठ गया मर जाता है. Right? A warrior, for the sake of dharma, for the sake of his Sanskriti, what does he or she do? She also, if you read in the Vedas, वो अपने आप को न्यौछावर करने के लिए तैयार होते हैं बार बार, again and again. Therefore, Vidura, in the Vidur Niti, in the Bhagavatam 7th canto, Narad Muni explains the destination of a soldier and a yogi is that they pierce the sun rays and go beyond the ordinary layers of life. क्योंकि उसमें प्रेम है अपने संस्कृति के प्रति, अपने धर्म के प्रति, अपने कॉज के प्रति. ले डाउन, आई डोंट एग्जिस्ट. हमने अपने आप को काउंट करना बंद कर दिया है. And therefore Arjuna could say, Krishna, I want nothing but you. And actually in the Mahabharata, Krishna asked, why you are doing like this? Duryodhana was very happy. इसलिए दुर्योधन को रिश्ता किस लिए चाहिए? Duryodhan's relationship is only to utilize. And Arjuna का relationship क्यों चाहिए? Only to experience the joy, the togetherness. So इसलिए logic, right, which we saw in the Bhagavad Gita, जहाँ expectation नहीं है, philosophy है, clear है, it doesn't matter who you are, you have to go through the principle of Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. The Dvandva is the reality. Fighting for your growth is the reality. If you do that, next stage is you are actually doing actual prema, because prema is meant for the very highly elevated people with a great mindset. We can aspire for it by doing the first one. And the next one is Nyaya Prema, then Yoga. What a definition of yoga. In the Bhagavad Gita, we see Arjuna went into Murcha Avastha. Uski indriya, his senses stopped functioning. Right? His body, the hairs on the body were standing not because of ecstasy, because of uncertainty. His mouth was drying the Gandiva. Imagine for a Kshatriya like Arjuna, Gandiva is slipping from his hand. Can you imagine what kind of traumatization he was going through? Imagine if Sachin Tendulkar in his peak, while he is facing, in the best of the ground where he has always scored, हाथ से बैट फिसल रहा है. And Arjun kaha? Where is Arjun? Right? What kind of credibility? What kind of power? What kind of strength? Fighting Lord Shiva, fighting entire Kaurava army alone, single-handedly, having not Krishna is the chariot driver, but Uttar Kumar is the chariot driver. सबको बेहोश कर दिया, except Bhishma Dev. Out of respect, he did not. And not only made them unconscious, asked Uttara go and collect their upper cloth. Because your sister had told me that she want to have the beautiful silk cloth of the Kaurava so that she can use it for the toys. वो भी याद रखा उसने Arjun. Such a great hero, he still remembers the small insignificant things required by his future daughter-in-law. बोला जाओ उसके लिए collect करो. क्या presence of mind. Arjuna such a great warrior. निवत कवच, जहां कोई देवता लोग defeat नहीं कर पाए. Nobody could defeat. Right? Arjuna was sent by Indra, went there and defeated all of them. You never hear anywhere in the scripture that Indra gives a place for someone to sit next to him. कोई भी उस स्थान पे नजदीक आ जाता है उसके लिए कुछ तो समस्या खड़ा कर देते हैं. But Indra gave space to Arjuna sit next to him. So there was no dearth of valor, no dearth of achievement, no dearth of confidence, no dearth of relationship with Supreme Lord and Devatas, you name it. हर लोग उनके जुड़े थे. Hanumanji was there on his chariot in the flag. But when he saw, right, when he saw the great Bhishma, Drona, Kripa and all the relatives, Arjuna went into the great swoon of nothingness. Now this nothingness is different from the soldier of Shivaji Maharaj. हम अपने आप को काउंट करना बंद कर दिया. That was born out of love. That was born out of wanting no special identity so that I can become limitless. But this nothingness was born out of pain. This nothingness was born out of bodily compassion. This nothingness was born out of forgetting his duties. अर्जुन निष्क्रिय बन गया, मूर्छित हो गया, वो बीमारी हो गई. And he told Krishna, I will not fight. Unfortunately, most of the withdrawal from action, जानो देना क्या फर्क पड़ता है, क्यों लड़ाई करने का, that is not born out of wisdom, that is born out of fear. अरे मुझे लड़ना नहीं है, मुझे किसी के साथ झगड़ा नहीं करना है. ये कोई सत्व गुण का लक्षण नहीं है. It looks like सत्व but it is तमो. Right? The definition of Bhagavad Gita, the disposition what Bhagavad Gita teaches, if somebody slaps you once, yes, if it is your father, if it is your teacher, if it is your mother, if it is your very close friend, you can extend one more cheeks. Right? Lord Ram gave Bharat everything. He was willing to give him Vaikuntha also. But that same Lord, when he came as Krishna, he did not give the Kurus that I'll give you everything you want. He said, give 5 villages. Here Lord Ram was willing to give Vaikuntha, but here he came and said, give 5 villages. No, you cannot allow yourself to be slapped by someone who doesn't deserve to touch you. It is not your karma, it's an injustice. वो अन्याय है. उसको सहन करना, to tolerate that अन्याय which Arjuna was about to tolerate in the name of detachment has been condemned by Krishna, calling it as what? A murcha, klaibyam asmagamam partam. What kind of impurities have come upon you, Arjun? Rise and fight. Right? That was the declaration Krishna made. तो इसलिए योग यानी कि क्या, जो मरा हुआ जीव, भगवत गीता is not spoken to a dying person. Rather, Bhagavad Gita was spoken to a person with a dead consciousness and dead indriyas and dead ahankar. सब कुछ मर गया था. बोला मुझे नहीं कुछ कुछ करना है, मुझे भिक्षा मांगकर जीविका चलाना है. ना उसको खड़ा किया कृष्ण ने. Right? He spoke the philosophy. And therefore, yoga, what is yoga? Yoga is the combination of dharma and kriya. And therefore, as I was mentioning, the Ashwamedha, Purushamedha, and then Gomedha Yagya. Gomedha is basically representing the power of a intellectual Brahmana. अपने आप को पढ़ाई करते 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 जीर्ण करते. Therefore, in the Yaksha Prashna we were discussing what is the depth, what is the devatva for a intellectual, a devatva for a Brahmana. A devatva for a Brahmana is continuously avishkar karna, adhyan karna, research karna, right? Going deeper, because the time will keep changing. What was relevant 100 years ago, the relevance will change. Yes, certainly it is one thing, right? Like you must have seen the controversy about, live-in relationship, blasted by the sadhus for the right reason, right? At the same time, these shastras, what do? They do not create a division, they create another layer of reality. This reality will exist, will continue to exist, the reality of pure Vivaha Bandhan. But if this new layer is coming, how do you handle it? Like I was giving this example to somebody, like if you go to villages, in the villages, unfortunately, there are hardly any cows. I remember visiting one village, they said about 30 years ago, 50,000 cows were there. Now hardly any cows are there. And it is everywhere, right? You go anywhere and everywhere all over India, गायों की संख्या बहुत कम है, कुत्तों की संख्या बढ़ रही है. If you are very rich, you're a big landlord, you can have cows. बट साधारण लोगों के पास गाय की सेवा करने के लिए रिसोर्सेज नहीं है, पानी नहीं मिलेगा, घास नहीं मिलेगा, right? Then they are consciously, unconsciously sent to the slaughterhouse. I can go as a speaker, other group of devotees can go as a speaker and blast those people. How the hell you can kill the cows? How can you allow this? We have to protect the cows. But the point is, I give the lecture, I come in a good car, somebody feeds me very good ice cream, पनीर खिलाएंगे अच्छा से, no? मैं बोलकर चला जाता हूँ, लेकिन did I do anything to provide the resources for them to start taking care of the cows? ये राजा का कर्तव्य होता है, ये बड़े बड़े साधु लोगों का कर्तव्य होता है, ये बड़े बड़े लैंडलॉर्ड लोगों का कर्तव्य होता है, to provide the facilities so that people can continue to take care of the cows. Therefore, these issues of what the children are going has to be dealt with extreme sensitivity so that you do not isolate your own people, right? And that pragmatism, imagine दुर्योधन को भगवान ने कैसे डील किया. He was आतताई from every perspective, विष दिलाने के लिए प्रयास किया, try to kill the Pandavas by burning their house, try to abuse Draupadi, he made them lose in the gambling match, right? He was fulfilling all the criteria to be the highest level of Atatai, but Krishna comes as a peacemaker to Duryodhana, asking him to be a partner with the Pandavas and become very powerful. Please understand his story. One may say, how can Krishna compromise to such an extent? मार देना चाहिए था ना उधर ही. नहीं, give living entity an opportunity, because that living entity was born in a royal family. कुछ तो कारण था उस घर में जन्म लिया, एक बार उसको चांस देना है. रावण को एक बार चांस दिया. Ram was giving chance to Ravan. Draupadi would have been very angry. No, she would say, if he changes, if he is willing to change, beg forgiveness and mend his ways, I will forgive, because she forgave Ashwatthama who killed all her sons. Right? Of course she was angry to Krishna, but if Krishna was, he tried his best, but Duryodhana was not willing to accept it. Please understand. So therefore, Arjuna's Nishkriyata was attacked by Krishna, giving that opportunity for all the living entity to be active. Right? I was sharing with somebody, when someone cheats, somebody deceives us, somebody betrays us, somebody destroys us almost, what happens? The person was gone through the pain of losing everything because some very close family cheated them. They will thrive because they've taken somebody else's property. At least for some time they will thrive. By breaking down ourselves, going down to the path of nishkriyata, incapacitated, आपको लोगों की दया मिल सकती है, सिंपैथी मिल सकती है, परंतु empowerment लेना, proving them, proving ourselves, it doesn't matter. Right? Therefore Arjuna was told by Krishna, rise my dear Arjun, this is not the time, you cannot, because you are here to establish dharma, and therefore however pain, however difficulty, however compassion, however kindness you have to your close family members, you have to rise and fight. And Krishna, the entire 3rd chapter, entire 4th chapter, 17th chapter, 18th chapter, 14th chapter, it talks about the potential of the living entities to function. When that potential of the living entity, particular nature, is called as what? Dharma. वो गाय का धर्म है, वो दूध का धर्म है, ये फल का धर्म है. That is dharma. And acting based upon that dharma is called as yoga. The action is kriya. Dharma plus kriya is equal to yoga. And wherever that yoga is there, we saw nyaya, we saw prema, and wherever that yoga is there, what does Sanjay say as an outside party? He is a Shishya Vyasa, secretary of Dhritarashtra, neutral party. He says, Yatra Yogeshwaro Krishna, Yatra Partha Dhanurdhara. Right? Krishna is representing yoga. Krishna is representing dharma. Arjuna representing is kriya. Yatra Yogeshwaro Krishna, Yatra Partha Dhanurdhara. Tatra Sri Vijay Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. So Sanjay gave his conclusion. Wherever there is Krishna, who is what? Personification dharma, Yogeshwara, and wherever there is Arjuna, Gandivadhari, what is there? Prosperity is there, determination is there, morality is there, and stability is there. That is how Krishna's psychology, Krishna's reality, Krishna's personality. And therefore when you study, when Krishna was born during the Rohini Nakshatra, some of the planetary positions which are taken from different Puranas is fascinating, but we don't have time to discuss. Thank you very much. Can this be said that the love for Krishna is always born during life emergency situation when the life takes us by surprise? It is that the time when we don't see adversary coming, love is born. It all depends upon our perspective, because when there is adversity coming, you can also be agnostic. Therefore, it is not automatic. Adversary does not give rise to love. Rather, adversary handled with that spirit, second, yes, gives rise to, that spirit of, I'm not expecting anything from you. I am expecting just unalloyed friendship and love with you. A good question. Some have the understanding to protect dharma, cows, without vast facilities. Some have vast facilities but lack proper understanding. Why? How to rectify this situation? Therefore, again, in the Mahabharata, in the Ramayana, it is very clear. Dharma and artha have to be integrated. Without artha, when you try to execute dharma, it gives rise to pain. And artha not only resources, artha means right understanding also. Right? That contradiction between those who have the resources, those who don't have the resources. Those who had the resources, they were smart in collecting the resources, but they were dharmic. And those who are dharmic, they were not smart in collecting the resources. When dharma and artha are integrated, you can read the book Mani and Mahabharat, and that combination gives rise to great service to dharma and cow. This is again another a great point presented by Sri Krishna in the Mahabharata. What is that? That those who are fit will survive, those who are powerful will survive. That is what dharma, artha means what? The resources to become powerful. But power for what? For dharma. Right? So they are interconnected. इसलिए जिसके पास नहीं है, he is incapacitated. Intentions are there, resources are not there. जिनके पास resources है, उनके पास intention नहीं है. इसलिए Pandavas represent that quality of dharma and artha integrated for the sake of growth of the society. This is again very, your intention doesn't matter. Good intention doesn't matter. It is between you and God. But if you want to do something good to the society, you need, along with the intention, the resources also. Those with understanding to strive for greater facilities, or is it better investment for them to convince those with facilities to apply them properly? Both are required. Those who have, try to convince. Those who have the potential to make the proper resources, they should work for that also, because there is no greater resources, having with yourself rather than, trying to convince others. Because those who are convinced, you are convinced them, it is not their passion. But if it's your passion, when you have whatever resources, it doesn't matter. Your resources, when you apply, they are 100% utility. It's your mind, your body, your ego, your resources, सब कुछ अपने आप को गिनना बंद कर दिया. ऐसा व्यक्ति जब अपने आप को गिनना बंद करता है, therefore Sanatan Dharma doesn't go by feeling. It doesn't go by, oh, because I believe in Jesus, I believe in, that doesn't work like that. Krishna doesn't care whether you believe or not. He says, what will you do after believing? Arjun had no issue with believing in Krishna. Arjuna was lover of Krishna. That was not an issue. That was not a reason for discussion. The reason for discussion is, ability to put forward and fight for the good cause. Yeah, many slaughterhouses are owned by the Hindus. Yeah, those Hindus, they don't even touch meat. They are vegetarians also. So therefore, again, the whole principle of life an alternative economics has to be created. So there are adharmic in regards to business, very dharmic in regards to their own life. Very, like if you study Jarasandha, Jarasandh gave more charity compared to any other king. Karna doesn't fit into giving charity like the way Jarasandh gave, because that is described how much charity is to give. And his definition, when the Pandavas came to beg, the spirit, he remembered Bali Maharaj, Jarasandh, but he said, I have to give charity. Right. So he was charitable in regards to his personal giving, but he was totally adharmic in regards to how he collected his resources. इसी इस कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी को समझना बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण होता है. Right. So they are outright adharmic in regards to their business, but there is a piety. So therefore, unless you provide, and this beef slaughter and supplying, it is not 10 years. This is happening since ages, right? तो उसको undo करने के लिए, how many of our own people have the resources plus have the passion? अगर एक मोहल्ले में, एक कॉलोनी में, एक गली में लोग बोलेंगे हम लोग एक छोटा गौशाला खोलेंगे सब लोग मिलके, the transformation doesn't happen from the above, because it's a secular government. The secular constitution is there. It is not a dharmic constitution, and dharma is not a religion. Again, when you say dharma, people consider it to be religious constitution. When on the ground level, when people themselves start something, धीरे 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 करके, then the chain supply stops. That chain supply doesn't stop, because as I said, you have to go back. You have to see not the conclusion, you have to see the source. Why the cows are going to the slaughter? Because the farmer have so less resources. अपने आप को खिला नहीं सकते जो आत्महत्या कर रहे हो, गाय की सेवा कैसे करेगा? करने की इच्छा है लेकिन कर नहीं पाएगा. And therefore the impetus for cow slaughter comes from poverty for the farmers. तो इसके लिए the whole economical system has to be developed, and धीरे धीरे ऊपर से भी laws बनेंगे, नीचे से प्रेरणा बनेगी. Laws are always based upon inspiration by the regular ordinary citizens of the city. Are you saying new layers entered into the reality always, and we have to work according to that? But question arises, how should we know that is the right strategy? Because it may, yes, it is adharma, no doubt. We discussed this. I said the highest reality doesn't stop to you. We should always say, Baba, this is the highest. What are the psychological problem of live-in relationship? What are the problem of situationalship, nanoship? ये सब आया हुआ है ना. But these are the realities. Your surrounding is flooded by this reality. Are you going to disown them? They are your own children. Some of your relatives only. Some of your neighbors only. Some of your family members only. हमको इसको हटाना नहीं है. We are not separating the highest reality. उसको deal करना है. So rather than slandering them, can you deal with compassionately at the same time assertively? So they are not used by, again the problem is, if you study Hindu society, when someone was abused, we thought they're contaminated, and therefore we ostracized them. And the enemy realized, oh, this is the best way to minimize their number. Ostracize, our number will increase. The left liberal, right, the woke culture want the traditional people to disown these people. तो उनको डिसोन करने से आपके समाज का लाभ तो होने वाला नहीं है. At the same time, you cannot compromise with the standard. So this is the dynamic. While maintaining that standard, you are forced to create a new layer of reality, and you are forced to deal with it, not because you are liberal and woke, because that is the reality. that has to be dealt. Give. रावण को भी चांस दिया भगवान राम ने, दंड भी दिया, दुर्योधन को चांस दिया, दंड भी दिया. तो कंपैशनेटली उनके साथ में डील करने से they may become mainstream. Otherwise, there is a big isolation. Huge isolation between what you believe, what the next Gen Z Alpha believe. तो वहां मीटिंग ही नहीं होगा. There is no question of meeting point. When there is no meeting point, what I believe, does it matter? It doesn't matter what I believe. What matters is what is happening. So therefore, rather than dealing with what is happening, we focus more on what is the truth based upon the Shastras alone. And therefore, Shruti and Smriti ka harmony. Shruti is the principle, Smriti is the application. Thank you. We'll stop here. Hare Krishna.